Oh boy, do I have a podcast for you today. This is one that a lot of you have been waiting for. This is with the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Reg Coates. We finally did it. Our schedules finally lined up and Reg and I got to have a really good chat. This was a long one. This was awesome. Reg just kept going and giving more stuff, more insight into his life and his world as an arborist and so much more. So I hope you really enjoy this one. If you love Reg's videos on YouTube, then you will love hearing all about Reg and things he's got up to. We could have spoken for another 24 hours solid, so this is just a snippet, and hopefully I'll get Reg to agree to do another one. So enjoy.
I just took a lot of stuff for granted,
Yeah.
I mean, I've always taken things for granted. And you do more, in your sort of late teens and your 20s, and you just feel sort of indestructible, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
Things that
You think everything bad happens to everybody else, and you're untouchable, and you must be doing everything right because nothing ever happens to you, and you don't get ill, and you don't break bones, and horrible things don't happen to people, and and then as you get older, it all starts happening, and it's like your life starts crumbling around you.
Well, I suppose it can do in the if you realise that you are on borrowed time, and things change all the time, but to be 22, 23, you 30 seems well old. Well, I'll never be 30. Just I didn't believe I would ever get to 30. I mean, don't ask me what I thought would happen. I never thought it was possible. For some reason, it seemed like light years away.
Seemed like a magical,
mystical
number. I
was going to forever be stuck in this time warp of being 20-something.
Yeah.
But having said that, I got to 30. And I didn't feel any different. I looked a bit different, but I never thought, well, this is nothing. And then I got to 40 and I thought, well, this is still nothing. Even though you look different, you look fucked, but I don't feel any different.
You always feel younger, like you feel like you're in your early 20s in your head, don't you? I think.
I'm fortunate enough that I do in my body as well. I mean, I'm 48 now, and I weigh exactly the same as what I did when I was, 22. I do exactly the same job. I do more work now than what I did then. I thought I was doing a lot of work then. I feel absolutely no difference. So if I can offer a message of hope there to anybody, if you look after yourself, you stay disciplined, you keep doing the same things that you did. You know what I mean? And certainly in this line of work, you obviously got to work smart, you got to eat well, but very importantly, you got to keep your weight down. I can't emphasize that enough. And you limit, or should I say, you can't burn the candle at both ends. You can't. If you go doing tree work in the day and then go lifting weights at night, you're asking for trouble. No matter how much energy you feel like you have, there's a discipline as well in giving yourself time to rest. You might not feel like it. I don't. You know what I mean? But I make myself do it. You know what I mean? I don't like it. but I make myself doing that, and that's how you avoid injuries. You know, because if you're working out in the day and working out at night, you become like a coiled spring. You know what I mean? You'll see like a sprinter in 100-meter race, looking in phenomenal shape, chiseled from head to toe with muscle, run 20 yards and then pull up with an hamstring injury. It might be the biggest race of his life. He got 20 yards and he just blew a gasket. You know what I mean? And so you have to learn something from that you can go too far.
Yeah,
You might
definitely.
feel like you've got this massive engine, you know what I mean? But I think you have to be disciplined and say, no, calm down. You know, don't do too much. Work like an admin in the day if you want, but now in the evenings, at weekends, just try and relax. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just recover. Because injuries build up. They usually build up and they're waiting to happen. You know, with overuse, and then bang, they go. You know, you might be off work. Cost you a load of money. You know, so you do have to give yourself time.
Yeah, the what I, what I noticed, like not necessarily tree work, but say if I go running, and like I'm not feeling any injuries, and so I'll be running like every night of the week, just short runs or something, and then I get lazy and complacent because I feel fine, so I take it for granted that my muscles are obviously strong enough they can take it, and then so I kind of start stretching less at the end, maybe because I'm like, oh God, I ain't got 20 minutes to stretch, and then like a couple of weeks of doing that and being lazy about stretching because I feel fine, and then something happens and I'm like kicking myself and frustrated because if I'd have just spent like the 20 minutes stretching like I
Yeah,
would do if I had like some niggling issues, and like it's doing like preventative stuff rather than waiting for something to happen, because like you say, if you're going hard and not resting and not doing the right thing, it'll happen at some point. And to me, it's happened so many times, like, because I just get lazy
yeah.
with like with like stretching and morning routines and stuff. But yeah, anyway, let's talk about tree work and where you started and what got you into doing tree work in the first place. Like, what was it? Was it you seeing a company or somebody offered you a job, or what?
So, well, my dad was, he used to do, he was a musician. He had a band. He also used to repair cars as well. He used to do write-offs. He had a garage in the day, but at night he was a musician, and his drummer at the time was working at a tree company in Cheshire, and I was sort of maybe just turned 17, and he came in one night. He was somewhere. I was at home, and I'd kind of been in after leaving school. I was in and out of a few jobs that it didn't go that well. And he said, "I've got you a job. You start tomorrow." And I said, "What is it?" And he said, "Don't know exactly, but you're working with Mark. He's working at this place in Cheltenham." He said, and I think he said, "I think they go out and they cut trees or they do something. Anyway, he's picking you up at 7 tomorrow." And I thought, all right. So anyway, Mark picked me up. We went down to this yard, lots of trucks and a couple of chippers, and this was '89, and there was about 12 blokes that worked there, and I just jumped in the truck with one of them, and we went off, and I didn't know what we were even going there for, but I know there was chainsaws on the truck and stuff, and I was a quiet lad. I didn't really speak without being spoken to. unless it was with my mates, And I did a day's work. I did what I was told, and I enjoyed myself, and I felt, a good sort of sense of worth. And if Matt couldn't pick me up for more than a week, that was just to get me started. From there on, I had to get my own way to the work. So I had to get up at 5, and I had to walk from our house to the bus station, which take an hour. But an hour's walking there, then I'll catch a bus for 30 minutes, and then I'll walk another 30 minutes after that to the work depot. And I was the first job I was involved with. I was working on the railway line for like 2 or 3 months. So it was just dragging shit up and down railway banks all day, like, and burning on the side while the other guy was climbing and dropping stuff. And I went to, I was so kind of skinny and scrawny, I couldn't even pull a pull cord, I had to put the saw on the ground to start it, because I didn't have the strength. But the strength soon came, and I worked so hard, like I was with sweat buckets, because I really didn't want to lose this job. And at night I would do the same journey home. It would be walk 30 minutes to the bus station, to where I would get the bus, and then a bus to Macclesfield, and then I would walk an hour from Macclesfield to North Road. And I did that all through the winter, and my feet were so badly blistered because of that journey, and then up and down the railway banks all day in boots that were too small for me. I never said anything until one of the blokes said, "Why are you limping?" And I sort of didn't want to say anything. And he said, "Take your boots off. What's wrong with you?" I took them off, and I saw them blistered. And he said, "Why didn't you say anything?" I said, "I just didn't." But I'm all right. And he said, "We'll take some of my boots." And they got my boots. And, my goal was always, to keep my job. I want people to ask to have me with them as their sort of helper. Do you know what I mean? So I'd always jump first to get anything that needed to be gotten to be as helpful as possible. Do you know what I mean? And I just had that attitude, and I wasn't getting paid very much. I think I started on £75 a week, and but I was so grateful for the job, and I saw, like, these blokes. There was some highly skilled operatives there, and I've never seen people work together like that and help each other. I just haven't been exposed to that in my life. Like, you'd finish, let's say you finish a job early, you'd be like, "All right, we'll go and give such and such a hand on his job," and you drive out your way to that side. So it wasn't a request or an expectation, it was just something that they did, and I've never seen that before. You know what I mean? I've never seen that level of trust and cooperation, and just honourable people, and it was a real eye opener for me. And like I said before, that I was drinking a lot, and I was miserable about a lot of things. I had no real direction. I don't know where I was going. Maybe I found my feet somewhere else, but I wasn't in a great environment, and that was just gave me some foundation that I didn't have. So that's how I got started. And so I worked there, and I soon realised that the way you progress is to learn how to climb and become accomplished. So, You know, I used to beg for opportunities. You know, and the way my opportunities used to come was, I mean, there was always electricity work. That's where they would send people, because you'd go there on a day rate, you'd do power line clearance, and you'd get, you know, your ropes and climbing without an enormous amount of pressure. Even though we used to do a lot of live power line work, which I wouldn't even do now. The things that we were expected to do then, you didn't really question, you know, but you know, so we used to do a bit of that. And when I was working and helping one of the good climbers, you know, often it was the case that they'd allow me to come up and do parts of the tree. You know what I mean? Or they'd get the worst of it done and said, right, you won't finish that. You know what I mean? And that's how I used to get opportunities to do things. But I would always ask for it. And I would always work really, really hard on the ground. So that sort of get people's respect. That's what we wanted, was to get people's respect. You know what I mean? Because I was only a young fella, but you know, I felt like I really had to prove myself all the time, and I did, and I progressed very quickly because I had some good people around, and who had the patience as well, gave me the opportunities that I begged for. You know what I mean? To learn and become quite accomplished very, very quickly. Then when I was like, I got offered, when I was 20, I got offered a job in Australia to go out there to Sydney. So I said yes. And I went out there working and on a working holiday. Worked for a pretty good company. We did a lot of big trees out that way, and it was a harsh environment. Obviously, the heat was pretty shocking, I found, because I went straight into sort of late spring, summer, and we had some big nasty stuff to deal with. And you know, I learned not really off anybody, even though there was a very good climber um, that I worked with for a good part of it. But I learned because I had to. Do you know what I mean? And my company would often as well send me out as a contract climber to other companies to do the stuff they didn't want to do. So I was really thrown in the deep end in a way. But I didn't mind it because, you know, I did kind of whatever I lacked in strength and maybe experience at that level, I sort of made up for in determination. Do you know what I mean? And the ability to push myself through really uncomfortable situations. You know, and I've always had that. But they obviously became less and less as you the practice and familiarity. And you know, that's, you know, anyway, I did that year. It went from, it was, I wish I'd not done as much work and took more opportunity to explore the country, because I basically went there and worked every day. You know what I mean? And some days, you know, I mean, most days through the summer, you know, I would get to the yard at 7 and I wouldn't get home till 7 at night. You know, I'd be so exhausted and overheated. I just used to get a cold slab of concrete outside, because I ended up living in a shared house full of these other blokes that did other trades, all rough fellas. I was the youngest. I had my couple of decades, I think. But I had a great time with all of them. And, but I used to come home and I just used to lie on the cold slab outside to cool down, and lie there for ages. You know, I was so boiling, full of cramps and stuff. And that became my routine every day, every week, every month. And as good as it was and as beneficial as it was work-wise, I wish I'd just seen a bit more of the country, you know what I mean, and explored a bit more, took some time off. I worked the whole time, and then it was time to go home, you know. So I went back to that company that I worked for. I stayed there about a year, and then I left to go self-employed. as a contract climber, and I did that for a few years, and then took off. I went back to Australia for a bit, came back to England. I went out to New Zealand at 27. I was a contract climber over there, and then back to England again, and you know, 10 years or more in England, and then came out to Canada. It'll be 10 years in June I've been here. So that's about, so it'll be 31 years in total, and summer.
So you never like run your own business or anything back in the UK. You just did some contracting.
No, I just contracted all the time.
Yeah.
And, I knew I was never going to be there long term, even though I was there for many years on and off. And I didn't want to commit, make the commitment and investment in equipment and advertising, marketing, building up a reputation and all that, and then get rid of it all and leave. I knew I couldn't stay in England, and I knew that wasn't where I was going to end up forever.
Yeah.
I could never be satisfied there.
What made the decision Canada then?
I kind of always had, I'd seen photos of Canada, the Rockies, the West Coast, and I don't know, I always had a very romantic kind of image of it in the mind, the concept, and so sort of, I don't know, it appealed to me. The east side didn't appeal to me that much, even though there's some really nice places and good people over there. I didn't like the look of the winters, to be honest. And as well as that, when you do, I know there's some tricky stuff in Quebec and Toronto, but I think that if you do tree work and you have an option, you look for the biggest stuff. If you're a contract climber and you specialize, then you want to utilize that skill as best possible. There's no point going to somewhere where the trees are only 40 foot. You're not going to get much work, are you? It's difficult to stand out on the easy stuff. It's the big stuff that really, separates.
That's when you get the work. When a company needs to bring somebody else in that they don't have on their staff, and
Well, it was funny because we came to Canada like on holiday to have a look. This was before we was born. We knew that this was the place we wanted to go. So we came and landed in Calgary, drove across the Rockies, and spent some time in Vancouver. And this was years and years ago now. I thought we should move it. Let's find out what's involved. There was a lot involved. And I didn't want to go down the sponsorship route there. I didn't want to be tied to anybody. I didn't want to be obliged to anybody. I've been self-employed for many years as it was. I didn't want to work for one company. You know what I mean? I needed that freedom. When you had a taste of freedom, it's very difficult to go back, do you know what I mean, to being like an employee. So we did what we had to do to build up our enough points to qualify under the skilled worker scheme, but independently without sponsorship. I know a lot of people get sponsored and then go over and then apply for the residency while they're working, while they're, kind of sponsored. We didn't want to do that. I didn't want to work for anybody full time. So we had to wait it out I had to, we both went to college. I went to college and did the RFS certificate. Juliet did marketing certificates that she was into. We saved money to get enough money. You need enough money. You've got to be under a certain age, which we were, to just meet the criteria and get enough points. As it was at the time, she was, ironically, she was working for an immigration company at the time that would prepare people's applications to emigrate. So she had tons of inside information. The application itself is like this thick, and that's what when they presented. It couldn't have been any better, our application, because there's so much, as you know, so much information. You've got to prove your whole life since the day you're born, basically, and meet the criteria, the type of people will allow as skilled workers. Anyway, it took 4 years before we got our visa, in which time we'd had a kid, and in which time I'd also got involved with Stein, designing products for them. So, in those years, things had changed. I was actually doing all right.
Yeah.
Like, I was getting royalties from Stein. I was getting good money, doing the contracting. Ria was 2. She had her own circle of people in her life now with my dad and mum, Juliet's family. It wasn't so easy then to say, right, we're going, because life had moved on for us. You can't just put everything on hold. You have to carry on and still progress. So it then got to stage, well, what do we want to go like? You know what I mean? You still want to do this because things are going pretty well, But I don't think, it was tough, but I didn't want to. I don't ever want to. It's a bit of a cliche, but I don't want to regret the things that I didn't do. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can always say, you can always try something, fuck it up, and then say, all right, that didn't work. I'll go back to doing what I was doing before. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would think it's far worse, because I hear this a lot. Do you know what I mean? I hear this a lot from people who email me a lot, because, you on YouTube too, you get a lot, you hear from a lot of people that perhaps you'll never meet, but you do kind of hear from them, and they become familiar with you and you them. And often there's the thing I hear is, I wish I'd done what you did. Now I can't. Do you know what I mean? Now I can't do it. I should have done that years ago. You know what I mean? I hear that so much. But I knew that that couldn't be me. Do you know what I mean? You have to go for it. And I'm not. But having said that, I've moved and lived abroad before, so I know that the saying goodbye and the guilt that goes with leaving people. I know what that feels like, so I'm sort of used to it. That wasn't, the most terrible thing in the world for me. And the added incentive too was that we had our daughter, and I think, well, she's more important. Now, there's a lot wrong with the UK. There's a lot wrong with Canada. There's just different things wrong with each country. But I looked at Canada and thought, she's going to be safer. This is a safer country. Canada's like this giant place that's sparsely populated. England's this little place that's overpopulated. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And quite a toxic melting pot of cultures, which is brimming and brewing. And I'm pretty pessimistic about that whole situation. And I sort of I'm seeing the things I was worried about coming to light now. So, I'm glad we know there are things and people that I miss about England. I miss conversations with people, with certain people. Um, you know, but there's always a trade-off.
Yeah.
There's always going to be a compromise. And I'm a different person now than I was. People change, and if they're getting different exposure to different things, I suppose different experiences, they find new things that they enjoy more than the old things they used to do. Or the old things just seem old now and not so interesting. Like I used to, I suppose, I grew up in a culture where you were always surrounded by people and always a lot of your activities, involve other people, especially in a social sense. You know what I mean? I mean, when I think back now, like you'd go to a pub or a club or something like that, which I used to do a lot, which was a big thing because it always involved other people. And if you went somewhere and it wasn't that busy, you'd say, "Oh, it's not busy enough. Let's go somewhere else." And I think back at that, I can't understand it for the life of me because now, you know, a great time for me is getting away from people as far away as I can. Since I've discovered the backcountry here, and the mountains and the rainforests, and if I can get away and escape the crowds, be out there on my own or with a select few, very few people, I'm in heaven. And that's such a contrast from where my priorities were before and the things that I value. That's just how I grew up, you know what I mean? I grew up in the cities. So, but now I've discovered this whole new world to explore. And you don't need other people to do it. And that's what I value. That's what gives me some of the greatest pleasure. Do you know what I mean? Being out in the wilderness.
You
So,
you you have to have done those things in your life, like you were saying about being in a pub surrounded by noisy drunk people. You have to kind of live that part of your life to realize that that's not. Cause then to learn and say, right, I did that, but that's definitely not what I want for this chapter of my life. And I like the peace and quiet and the good conversation with a select couple of people and who like the things that I like. And but yeah, I suppose most people go through that, don't they?
maybe they do, but then you go back and you see people doing exactly the
Still,
same thing. And they're quite happy with it. They're
yeah.
still going to the same pub.
But
You
that
know
but
what I
that is
mean?
that is the
They're
people that
still watching football every Saturday.
yeah, that is the people that never. It's usually the people that never leave the town that they grew up in, though. So they haven't
No, they don't.
experienced the outside
No.
world, have they?
No, they don't. But they don't seem to have the curiosity to do it either. So we're just not all the same. They value other things. They value the familiarity and they get comfort from seeing these familiar faces in the street or next door or you know what I mean, looking through the window across the road. I don't know. I don't get any of that. I don't feel any of that. I've never been a very neighbourly person anyway, but I always like to have familiar people around me, but they just value different things. It doesn't make them or me right and them wrong or vice versa. Just accept people different. They have different values. You know what I mean? Some people are certainly a lot more family orientated than what I am. I mean, I it's kind of you know, our family or my family sort of put up with each other.
Yeah.
While some other families are so tightly knit and close, and they live in each other's pockets, and they wouldn't have it any other way. You know, but I don't feel that, or maybe there's something that stops me from getting close. You know what I mean? Maybe there's just a survivor gene in me that stops me. You know what I mean? From getting too close with people. I have trust issues too. You know, and I'm very, you know, that have been with me since a kid. I have issues with trust. And I don't know. It takes a long time for me to trust me. You know, and I don't take them at face value. So I suppose, you know, I sort of subconsciously isolate myself, you
Yeah.
know, even from family. You know what I mean? It's like a survival thing, I suppose, that I can't help. You know, that's just who I am. I've changed a little bit when some ways for the better and other ways for the worse when we had our kid. You know, but who knows what I'll be like in 10 years, I don't know.
So I've got a two-part question for you.
Yeah.
One is, do you enjoy doing tree work, or is it literally just a job for you? And do you enjoy making videos about tree work, and how did that start? Because I suppose if you don't enjoy tree work, I don't know why I assume you do or you don't, but like, what do you like about making the videos that you make? And yeah.
Well, I don't know if joy is the right word. Like, do I enjoy it? Um, I think that in order to stay, I think I have to do some work. Like I have to be to keep me balanced, stop me going mental. I have to have certain things going on in my life. Do you know what I mean? I have to, you know, I suppose at some point of the day or the week or through the days and weeks, I have to physically wear myself out. Well, this is a good job for me. I also have to be mentally kind of pushed. Not challenged, I don't like that word because I hear it too much. I suppose I have to get me level. I need something to get me focus and concentration to a certain level. No, and these things are like, I suppose they're just uh, they just keep me balanced because I know what I'm like when I don't do these things. Do you know what I mean? I start going mad, yeah, very quickly, and I start overthinking and seeing things that aren't really there. It's not, they're not the best version of me. So I would have to replace that. If I didn't do tree work, I'd have to be doing something equally as that would push me equally as hard. Do you know what I mean? That would push me mentally. You know, we did that. I was at on the Alberni Highway this week early with VI3 doing some big trees at Cathedral Road there, and Ryan was there as well. He was climbing. We were actually pretty close, working in neighbouring trees at one point, which is really rare. We don't usually somewhere else on site. You might seem like miles away, but and that's physically hard work. You know, climbing old growth trees is very, very physically hard work, especially because you are furs in particular, because of the flaky, horrible, mossy bark. You can't get your foot in. It's not just a case of having to climb up a big white stem. It's the fact that everything's crumbling under the spurs. Just getting your feet in the back. They're just them rainforest trees are just a different animal altogether. And so there's the physical aspect of it, which is hard. And for anybody who hasn't done it, you can't imagine, to be honest. You couldn't explain it unless somebody actually done it against the clock. So you don't really, the way we do it is probably not the most ergonomic spurs and flip line, but it's probably the most foolproof way, because setting lines in that environment, getting them up to that height, pre-setting lines, and it's just, you could be there forever, or you might not. You might get lucky. It might actually come down where it's supposed to come down, and you get in there and you save yourself an enormous amount of effort getting past that first 150 foot, whatever it is, and then it'll start to get thinner. Or you could be there for ages. So you can't really take a chance on being, we'll do this. It's not like a recreational climbing where, it's all day. You got to do this, and you got to do that, and you got to do another one. So you just use the simplest method, which is spur climbing. You just have to struggle up there. So you get on there. The weather's always atrocious. The worst time of year. They always pick the worst time of year to do that job. There's always a threat of winds, and then there's there's the mental pressure of it all, and it's not nice. I get emails all the time, comments. I've put a video of the big tree we took down just the other day, and there's people saying, I really envy. I wish we got the trees like that. And I think, no, you don't.
Yeah.
And if you did, you would know the reality is a lot different than watching a video. It's a lot different. It's a harsh environment, and it's a mental game, is what it is. And unfortunately, too, where it really tests you is the weighting that's involved. That's where I find what I find the most testing. Like on that tree in particular, you're waiting. It's already pissing down. You're waiting for a windstorm as it's forecast, and you're going through these kind of painfully slow processes of drop some limbs. Cars are stopped. Excavator moves in, pushes all the cars off the road. 20 minutes then of traffic goes past. Then it's all got to be stopped. It's all done on radios. It's all taking forever. You're just stuck there. You're just stuck there seemingly forever each time. Then you can do a little bit more. Then you get top out, and then you're feeling a little bit better. You just piss right through. And it's so kind of, you're so high and hostile. You're just not looking around thinking, oh, this is great. You just think you're just feeling miserable.
You just want to get down to the ground.
we just want to get on with it, because that time of redundancy, you just start thinking things that aren't always rational. You find like time takes on different meaning. It seems to take forever. Not when you're working, but when you wait, you're cold. You know what I mean? And you just, I can feel my patience is not where it should be. It's not where it would be normally. And there was a time when I was thinking, like, I'm waiting and waiting. The radio had got ripped off and broken. And there's one particular time they were doing a blast at the same time down there. I was waiting for ages. It must have been 30 minutes. It's just hammering down the rain. And where I was probably about 190 foot, or just a bit more. I'm waiting to take a log off. I'm waiting forever. And I'm seriously thinking about getting down. Because, but why, I don't know. But in my mind, I'm thinking, like, what the fuck is going on down there? You know what I mean? I can't see anything happening.
Well, your radio was broken at the time,
Radio's broken.
so you
They
had
know I'm waiting, but we're
no
waiting
contact.
on the go ahead from somebody else before we can drop this next lot down onto the road. And it just seemed to take forever. And I'm thinking, I'm going to say, if you don't fucking hurry up, I'm getting down. I'm going home because I already know it's not rational. But that's how it gets you. That's what a lot of people don't understand who just kind of romanticize about it. And that, but you know, saying all this, that kind of being put in that reality, and it's one I've been in many times. So I recognise the feelings, and sort of know how to banish them. I know how to keep them at bay. I know how to push through tough stages of the work. Like, you know what I mean? I know how to break things down. I know because I see people get overwhelmed before they even start on all kinds of jobs because they look at too much of it. You know, and I've said, look, just I want you to put one foot in front of the other. I want you to break this down into stages. I want you to look at that as a group, that as a group, that as a group, or different stages of the tree. As in, you don't worry about anything else until you've completed stage one. And when you finish stage one, you do stage two. And as when you look at all 5 stages at once, it can just shatter some people before they even start, and they're already defeated, looking for excuses. Do you know what I mean? So I understand all these feelings, and I know how to overcome them too. You know what I mean? Sometimes I get them worse than others. That particular period there where I was waiting, just hammering down all the time. And I'm thinking, it seems like it's going dark already. You know what I mean? I don't feel like we've done enough. Not where I thought I would be at this stage. I was feeling frustration though, no, but you know, I'm experienced enough to know what my feelings are. But that mental game is something that people don't really talk about or acknowledge. You know, I'll never get to experience. You know, but going back to do I enjoy tree work? You know, I need that kind of stuff. Like, you know, I need to be pushed like that as an individual. I have to be pushed, or I don't. I'm just not myself. You know, when I get down, when I will finish that tree, and there was a big one I had to swing across and reduce. When I finish that tree, I'm like, I feel like I've been cleansed. You know what I mean? I feel like stuff that was bothering me before I started, other aspects and things in my life that I was juggling, they've been kind of washed away. They've been put in context. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So I need
definitely.
a job. I need a job like this that I can get my teeth into, that pushes me mentally and physically. So I wouldn't call it joy, it's just something that keeps me balanced. Now, in regards to the videos, I did actually start doing them when I knew I was going to get into making equipment. There wasn't many people doing YouTube stuff at that time, and I just discovered one of the forums. I didn't know what they were. I thought they were some of a stupid idea. But the tree forums that were around, Tree Buzz, I don't know, is it still going? But somebody put me onto that. I thought, that sounds like holy shit. You know, why would anybody get involved with something like that? You know, and then I started reading, and at first I was kind of laughing at it all, you know, feeling really superior and condescending. And then I began to read a bit more, and I thought, there's some clever people on there, actually. And I saw some, and reckon there's some twats on there, obviously, there always is. But there was some people and experiences that was sharing stuff I could relate to. But this was all part of a plan to build up my profile. So when I came to sell equipment, people would know who I was. They'd know, well, we've seen this fella work. So I started making videos just to put them on there, put them on Treebuzz and build up a reputation. You know what I mean? So, because you go buy equipment and the person who made it never climbed a tree in his fucking life. So what does he know? I wanted to buy equipment off you because you fucking red hot, mate. You know what I mean? So you must know something about what you've made, why you've made it a certain way, why you designed it. So that was the incentive to start with, and then the Stein stuff got off the ground, and then I just sort of met more people, and I was going to the expos every year in the US, and there just became an expectation, I suppose, that and people seemed to really like watching all this stuff, and then you get all the saying, well, God, I learned a lot from the stuff you put on there, and just carried on. And I also very much appreciated, hearing from people who have never seen such a job done before. They would perhaps be in a different trade altogether. I remember doing a crane, the first, worked on a crane job in the UK. Got involved with crane work in Australia. That's where I learned how to do that. And then came back to England and started encouraging the companies I was working for to use cranes. And one of the first crane companies we got in was called Sutton Crane Hire. And the owner was a fellow called Morris. He was a veteran crane operator. He was the owner operator, and he had 4 other cranes and people who worked for him. But he was like a very fiery character. He was very emotional. Like he would explode regularly on jobs. Papers would be going up in the air and he'd be storming off. It was just. But him and I had a good relationship because he saw what I did on that very first job, and he was blown away. He was blown away by how quick I was. He was blown away by how well I could balance stuff with a single point of attachment. And he was, on his part, of all the crane operators I worked with, he was by far the quickest, most intuitive I've ever worked with. He was just unbelievable how his accuracy and his kind of the speed of the man was unbelievable. How intuitive it was to him, how that he would get that hook to you in the quickest possible time, taking the shortest possible route, maneuvering numerous controls all at once. Like some cranes they go to there and they stop and they go up. It's all one kind of movement at a time. With Morris, it would just be so fluid, and he would drop. No sooner had one section come off, I would get access out. I'd walk out on another limb. So we're doing a huge beach alongside the block of flats, and I'd look around, and that chain would just be dangling within reach of things. It would be there already. It's so quick, and I've worked with some good crane operators, good for different reasons. But the speed and just his natural intuitiveness, it was fantastic. The best I've worked with. And I filmed some of them things, and they seemed to be appreciated. But what I was going to say was that Morris, in particular, somebody that I respected, and he said, it's amazing what your job is. The thing he said, I've never seen anybody do a job. In all the years I've been involved with rigging, he said, you know what I mean, rigging and lifting boats and ships and construction. And he said, I've done it all my life. I've done it for 40 years. I've never seen anybody do what you just did then, you know, with that tree. He said that was amazing. You know, and I come across more people like that. And then when I used to go to the expos in the US, you know, I would meet people who would come up, you know, from the US, Canada, and America, you know, old timers, you know, not that old, but you're still active, but they're decades under the belt already and kind of at the far end of things. You know, perhaps they're managing or just company owners, and they'd come over and say, "Seen your videos, really, really appreciate the finer details in what you do. But watching you through the head camera, I can see exactly things that you're looking at. It's like watching our own hands. We were checking this and that, and your posture, you know what I mean, and everything else. The ergonomics of it all, it's so true to life. They say we're sitting in our seats shuffling because we feel like we're there. Helmet cameras were new then, but you meet people like that who've seen some action, you know, and I got involved with a few people that I read about too. That I got who approached me, which was very flattering, you know, because they liked what I did. Like Jerry Baranek, you know, wanted to use some of my footage in his working plan and DVD, and I got to meet Don Blair and Ken Johnson, and they sat down for a long time, you know, talking about stuff and talking about their Hobbs slowing device, which I'd made a video of previously before we made ours. And they just, you know, I thought, well, I should carry on doing this. And you know, to this day, I still get a lot of people saying, keep, please keep making them, because many people that don't even do truth say they just enjoy watching so much. And they like the way you do things. They like your honesty. Um, you know, we like the way you improvise. You know, we like the fact that you're down to earth. You know, you just don't always have a happy face. You know what I mean? So there's that expectation, and I don't like, you know, some people do things that I think because they like to show off and they have a big ego or whatever. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with healthy ego. I encourage you at work to be honest, because it can be used, you know, to get people to work really hard. But and it can be used also as fuel to better themselves. With just the right encouragement or the right wind up, then you can really get people going, and they can, you know what I mean. They can really perform for you. But you know, with me, it was I like to kind of, you know, I'm a working class, obviously, and I just like to, I suppose, depict what it is to work outside and do a hands-on skilled job in the world that is now kind of so focused on IT and people working indoors. Nothing wrong with that, and screens and technology. I like to depict somebody in a positive way. You know what I mean? That actually shows a bit of grit, courage, and determination, and ingenuity, and thinking, and risk assessment, calculated risk. It's all kind of in there. And I just like to remind people, you know, that this is the reality of some of us. You know what I mean? They get people that complain about their jobs and they hate their jobs, and they've had a hard day. And I say, well, there's a different levels of hardship. You know what I mean? I'm not saying mine or ours is the hardest, but I'm saying you actually might be quite lucky, comfortable sat in the office. You're not in danger. Do you know what I mean? So I do like to put that out there. to remind people, as well as to entertain.
Yeah. I think, to be honest, I feel that we're lucky in the respect that we get to be outside, kind of going somewhere different every single day. We
Mm.
have a task that usually has got to be completed by the end of the day, or maybe a couple of days. So you get that, you were talking about when you get down from the tree at Cathedral Grove, you get that like a sense of accomplishment because you're like, right, tick that one off. I've completed that one. Everything went well, and we get that sense of accomplishment like every single day. Whereas I feel like people that work in an office, I would be smashing my head against the table because I'm not the kind of person that can be sat inside with
Mm.
a job that's maybe I'm never going to achieve the end goal for like 3 months working on something. I
Mm.
I have to achieve a task. Like I have to be able to work towards it and see the light at the end of the tunnel, and
Mm.
be outside as well, and especially.
Well, I suppose you don't know until you do it. I suppose you can, um, I suppose, rechannel your energy, and it might be a job that you enjoy. The the means might be worthy of the cause. You might find out. I mean, I know some very very good climbers who went into consultancy and they never regretted it for a minute. I mean, it is still related to the foundation of what we did. It's just gone off in a different avenue. Their passion was the trees and nature anyway. Then it's not. It's kind of just a different avenue of that, and they find equal satisfaction in doing what they did, and um, perhaps mentally they were ready for that. Because some people really suffer with anxiety, and they suffer through the career, be it climbing career, maybe they're a faller or whatever. Um, they, you know, perhaps suffer more than you and I might do. So it could actually be a relief getting to that stage, putting themselves in that position where they can hang the harness up. It's not never been like that for me. I've never felt. There was a stage where I was, I suppose, when I was getting qualified and what have you, I thought, well, maybe I should pursue that avenue. Maybe I could go into consultancy too, but I didn't. Because at the same time, the Stein products thing came about, and I got my head down into that a lot, and then started making money from that. So it never quite happened. It was like just reached like a bit of two options, and then went down that route. But you just I don't know. I've never worked in an office. I know a lot of people do, um, but I think more often than not, I've never come home, or very rarely come home feeling pissed off. But that's one very good one of the benefits of being in the position I'm in, doing the job that I do. Whilst I know lots of people who work inside or work within the political hierarchy, do you know what I mean? An office environment, a pecking order, and they come out and they finish and they're just full of frustration for whatever reason, and I've never been in the situation. I get a little frustrations, I get frustrated at times I have been with clients or co-workers, but nothing that's going to bother me for nothing past the journey home. Do you know what I mean? But some people obsess when they work in an environment, inside environment, for whatever reason, especially with all the PC expectations and protocol that is in place nowadays. Would that be absolutely maddening? Um, But if that's all they know, then I suppose they have a higher tolerance to it, because they're used to it. They're so institutionalized, a lot of them. But, for someone, for people like you and I, it seems horrific. You know what I mean? But perhaps isn't that bad for them? Perhaps they're so used to it. They just, they deal with it. They need the money, same as we do at the end of the day. What else are they going to do?
Yeah, maybe it is just because it's something that we're not used to, and like, yeah, and it seems ridiculous, but for them it's probably the opposite way around. Like, it's what they're used to, and they can deal with it, and they would hate being outside in the rain.
Yeah, in the rain.
Working hard. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, this is it. I mean, they would absolutely hate it. Yeah, it's a trade-off. But I'm okay with it. They stay on their side, and we stay on our side.
Yeah. Have you I want to be respectful of your time, Reg, but I was just wanting to ask one last thing. Have you ever had any pretty serious incidents, accidents, kind of close calls that really like were eye-opening, and you're like, oh, holy shit?
They're eye-opening now. They weren't at the time. I fell out of trees a few times when I was younger, learning, because there was a lot of free climbing involved. He would always just, if you tied in, the goal was always, working in our trees in the UK, was to get to the top, tie in, and then do your work. You know what I mean? If you tied in, you would kind of, we didn't have lanyards for whatever reason. We always used both ends of the rope. That's just was the culture then. And the lads were very, very good at it. Everybody got good at it. Advancing a tree using one end, you get there, and you throw the other end up. So unlike a lanyard, a flip line, where it just basically positions you where you are, then you set your rope higher. The throw balls didn't exist. With using two ends of your rope, you're making maximum progress every time. So it was quite logical. A rope didn't just hold you in one; you advanced it higher every time. So you could get up a pretty big tree, 4 ties. Do you know what I mean? Like 70, 80-foot tree. If you were a good shot, good at throwing, and you did get very good at throwing. But if you did that on a takedown, there was the suggestion that there was something wrong with you. Don't ask me why. It's just the culture. You almost weren't allowed to tie. It was like, right, get up that, and you would just spur all the way up, free climb. And on wide trees, you just have your arms out, clinging on with nails, or with your chin and your forehead pressed against the trunk. I don't know why, but that's how it was. And I never had an accident doing anything like that. Nobody ever did, because you were that highly focused and in tune. And but I took a couple of tumbles on easy stuff. One in particular where I come out about probably 25 feet. Luckily, I landed completely flat, like flat onto hard ground, and that hurt. That really was. I can remember it now if I think about it. It was shocking how kind of there was just absolutely no give in the ground. That's what stood out in my mind. That was so sudden. I mean, why would there be any give in the
Yeah.
ground? It was a big rooting area of hard oak roots, but it was such a crunch, you know, and nobody was there because it was line clearance. And I'd just gone to free climb up this tree to just shorten some epiconic growth which had grown up under the high voltage wires, stood on the wrong thing and wasn't paying attention and fell out. Crashed down on my back, like I say. And, you know, I lay there for a few seconds thinking, holy shit, that hurt. And then I realised I was okay and could move and go. I finished the tree, carried my gear back and told the lads what happened. That was one of the few times I ever had a cigarette because I was felt like I needed something. You know, they thought it was very funny, but the reality wasn't that funny. Another time, this was all, you know, before I was 20. Another time, again, I was doing power line work, and we used to just go out, do live work, high voltage work. So there'd be a couple of climbers, and then there'd be the supervisor from whether it was Norway or Manworth at the time, which was the hydro company then. I don't know if it still exists. And they'd just tell you, all right, that's what you'll do, and you'd just kind of stand around smoking, watching, and you'd go up and do the climbing. We'd always have a truck they're always in the farmer's field somewhere. We always hedgerow trees, oak trees, something like that. And we'd throw the branches on the wagon while we'd have a fire. And I'd done some really hard stuff. I was 18, and I'd done some hideous stuff right over the top of the three-phase. You know, where I had to peel back limbs and stuff like that. It didn't feel dangerous because it was what you were used to doing, you know. And then I had this easy tree to do, which was underneath the wires. And it just needed the epiconic growth shortening. I'd grown up since last time. I didn't want to lose the whole tree, so you just get your 2 meters clearance, that's it. I was cutting the branches. I was watching my mate from the other tree because he was on a tricky one. He was still up there. I was kind of watching him. And I was conscious of that. I wanted the branches on the truck side of the field, not in the opposite field. I didn't want to get over the hedge and throw them over. I thought I'd throw everything down here. And for a second, I just forgot where I was or what I was doing. And I grabbed the branch and went to throw it over my head. And it clashed with the wire. And it hung up there. And it was a weird experience because I couldn't see anything. Like I completely lost my vision. And I just felt power surging through me, like the most horrible, horrible pain through my body. And I just shouted out something, but I couldn't move. I was frozen, absolutely frozen, because all the muscles just freeze. There's nothing you can do. Thankfully, the branch fell off on its own. And then and my sight came back, and I could see again. And I realised, I took a breath, I realised I was okay. And the supervisor looked worse than I felt, to be honest. Because he was an old fellow, and he said, Jesus Christ, he said, another 3 seconds you'd have started smoking. So that was probably the most frightening thing that happened to me. I'd had chainsaw cuts as well. One in the leg was pretty serious. I was kind of awkwardly undercutting something again. I wasn't really as focused as I should have been on an easy tree. And It was using a crap soil. It was called Oleomark. I think they were Italian, rubbish. And it was so gutless and temperamental, and you're trying to kind of rev it up to get it some momentum to cut through anything. It kind of bogged down and stall, and it just never run right. And because of the heat we were in as well, it was just making it run like shit. And I kind of was awkwardly holding the saw, was undercut from something, and I cut through the branch, but the tip bounced off the limb below it and kind of flung out as it was only slowing down, but it cut into my leg, into my thigh. And that's a nasty cut. It was like 36 stitches. But it didn't it didn't hurt. It just felt like somebody grabbing your hand. It just kind of dipping the nails in. And I thought, oh shit, what have I done? No, oh no, I've cut myself. I was thinking, oh, fuck, I'm going to be off work. I lose money. But I was 20 years old. And I had to go to hospital, obviously. And they stitched it. It took ages to stitch it. And but by the night time, because I was in Australia. I was in the pub with my trousers down. Like, with everybody having a look, strangers, all these rough, like a pub like the roughest Australian bar that was in my area was called the Kingswood, and it was all blokes. It was even the barmaid looked like a bloke. Do you know what I mean? It was rough, fighting every night. Do you know what I mean? And the same characters there again the next night. You couldn't get bad. It was impossible. Do you know what I mean? But I was in there that same night, pulling the bandages off, showing off the stitches. I was the focal point of the pub. You know what I mean? I got a lot of street cred with this chainsaw cut. You know what I mean? These fellas with all the wife beat shirts, and tattoos on the faces, and what have you. It was, but that was them, and since then, I grew up. But it gave me, in hindsight, and I was kind of, I've had experience, I've seen things happen to other young workers since then, which has always made me really wary and super cautious about working with young people, because they might be the strongest, most talented, most adaptable, but they're also very impulsive.
Yeah.
And emotionally a bit different. Do you know what I mean? So I'm always very, very careful in that respect when I work with or around young people. I'm just, do you know what I mean? Because I know myself what it is to be in that situation, to be in their mindset, thinking they can just do anything. You have to just kind of hold them back a bit. Not hold them back where you're limiting their potential, stifling them, but you just have to kind of treat them a little bit differently, because you want to look after them, is the thing. And you don't want them doing impulsive things like in the heat of the moment. And what I learned as a kind of got older, it was the mental game as much as anything. How that has always been it became my biggest attribute in regards to safety. It wasn't to tie myself up with more gear. It was to get into good habits of concentration. Do you know what I mean? And to think clearly. And it doesn't you should never assume it just happens automatically. You know, you do have to, concentration has to be practiced. Do you know what I mean? It's like, there's different mental disciplines, and there is lots of techniques you can use, but it's something people don't really talk about. And they don't, it doesn't seem to, I don't know, it doesn't make the headlines very much, but a lot of accidents could be avoided. People just learn how to concentrate, and they learn self-discipline, and they learn about themselves a bit more. It's, you know, I don't believe that just putting more gear and restrictions on yourself is the answer. It certainly hasn't been for me, it hasn't been for the people that have been there. It's just getting into good mental habits, good equipment checks, and stuff like that. And most accidents happen because, you know, there's no such thing as a freak accident. There's some accidents that seem really unlucky, but a lot of accidents that happen, they're avoidable. You know, they're miscalculation or they're rash thinking, rational thinking at times. You know, is because people just get too eager and impulsive. You know, and the moods change and they get flustered, they get emotional, and they're not the same person they were earlier. I've sent ground workers home many times, you know, working in the sun. I've never said, do you feel all right? But I can see that they're not. They never complain. But I know what dehydration is. We've worked overseas. I know how it affects people's thinking, and I'm watching, I'm really watching, scrutinising how they do things, how they prioritise things. And I said, tell you what, mate, you've done enough. I'll finish. You get yourself off. And they do. You know, they don't know why. I said, is everything right? I said, yeah, you're great, man. You've done a great job. Get yourself home, man. Get the because their accident waiting to happen. I can see it. You know, and like I say, it's a mental thing. You know, people don't seem to talk about that. You know, in the UK, they're tying people up now in 2 ropes at a time, regardless of the tree, regardless of the pitfalls of that, of the hazards that it creates in itself, regardless that it's going to erode their skills, not enhance them, regardless of the things that they're not going to learn from doing it. Do you know what I mean? And you look at why these accidents happen, and they're so avoidable, silly things, but the fake consequences. You think, oh, well, that's the answer. Tie more fucking ropes on people, and that'll do. No, just fucking learn fundamentals, get into better habits, learn some discipline, practice it. Do you know what I mean? Get into good habits. These things are totally avoidable. But yeah, I'm glad I'm not there. That's how fucking. One of the reasons I got out, one of my motivations for getting out was all that bullshit and the legislation and the ridiculous safety dogma that was born and manifested. And you know, at one time there was only a couple of companies that were kind of training companies that anybody knew about. And you go there, you know, you do rigging courses and we do this and that and then they brought out a few units of certificates of competence, and I think it was 93, just 3 that you had to get to be able to climb and fall trees. We got them through, we were all on. That seemed reasonable. But from then on it manifested. You know, I mean, there are some good people involved with training who are honourable, but there's a lot of parasitic individuals as well, a lot of opportunists that thought, hey, we can make money. Let's make up a load of shit. Let's complicate things. Let's segment all these units. Let's invent quick refresher courses. And it all comes out of the contractor's pocket. I don't know how they cope with it. All the red tape you have to go through now as a contractor, a tree work program, is horrendous. And it's so unnecessary. But now there's hundreds, if not more, of people involved with training because they can make money. I don't know how they live with themselves, but they're different. They've made a different stuff than what I am because could never bring myself to profit off my fucking colleagues, allies, and co-workers. Do you know what I mean? By making up shit, for my own means. It's just, I went off point now, but it is kind of related. It's kind of related. Going back to what I was saying about getting into good mental habits, and I did that thankfully in time before. I grew up in time before I did first. Because like I say, I was too impulsive. I wanted to run before I could walk. What can you do, man? It's natural to be ambitious. In your late teens, early 20s, you're just full of kind of the business and you want to beat your chest, and it's a great time to be alive. You want to go to the pub and brag about things that you did. And it's like the fish that got away. Oh, it was this size.
Yeah.
Bird tree about that bit. It was massive. Do you know what I mean? You see it all the time.
Yeah,
I like hearing it.
As a young guy, it's just that all that testosterone flying around. Yeah, and you're out there doing a physical job, and then you come back and you see your mates and you want to brag about it because you don't know anybody else that does it. And yeah, and you're in like your late teens, early 20s, and ego is like sky high, and it says something about you that you actually recognized that you needed to like have that awareness about your concentration, because I feel like people just think, oh, I'm not born with it, and so it's not something that you can learn. That's just the way I am, and carry on. But if you want to get good at anything, I think there's ways to train your mind to think a certain way to get you in the routine.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's tons of information out there too, not necessarily related to tree work, but there's tons of information on how and techniques to focus and keep your focus that can translate into a job like this. That could help you. That can put things in perspective as well. That can help with anxiety and stuff like that. It's anxiety, terrible thing. Some people suffer with it a lot more than others. My strategy, or I realized I had to do, is just to kind of force myself into the most uncomfortable situation because I knew that, I hoped familiarity would cure, and it did. Some people can't do that. They'll always kind of step back and let someone else go. Or I, but as with all the people that I was around at that time, we would all kind of let that concept. But that stayed with me for, till this day. It works for me. It might not work for them, but I know that familiarity with the most uncomfortable things means that next time they're not going to be quite so. You know what I mean? You do have to push through things. It is a mental thing. And it's all too easy to look for the way on. I'm tired, or I'm injured, or this or that. It's too easy, but you have to live with yourself after too. And you know the truth. Nobody can lie to themselves. You can try, but you've got to live. I wouldn't like that feeling. I bottled it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I lied my way out of it. I couldn't live with that. I couldn't live with it. It's just not my life. Can I look at it logically? Yes, I can get through that. Is it going to be horrible? Yes, but I can get through if I follow the protocol. If I do what needs to be done. If I put one foot in front of the other. If I don't get distracted. If I don't buckle under the emotions, the anxiety, and the stress and the doubts. I know if I do my job properly, you know what I mean? If I stay disciplined, I make the cuts as it should be. It will work and I'll get through it and I'll get down. And I always have that mindset where I was progressing. And I still keep it to this day. Because I have good days and bad days, and some days I'm not feeling as much as I might be another day. And some days I just feel fucking grim. But I recognise the feelings. I think, well, you'll be alright, man. Get up there, break it into stages. Stage one is to get the fuck up. You know what I mean? And sometimes I never analyse stuff when I'm climbing up. Well, I don't start looking at that limb and look at this limb and look at that wire. Not because I'm scared or anything like that. Not that I'm long past that stage. But, I don't want to get negative thinking, oh shit, man, I've underpriced this. It's going to take ages. I think, no, don't look over there. Get to the top. And when you're at the top, you're looking down, things look a lot easier. When you're looking underneath limbs, aren't they? They can be overwhelmed. They can make you feel really defeated. You know what I mean? The bulk of work that's got, there's something about being up, looking down. Things suddenly start to look doable, within whatever time frame you're working to. I mean, when I get to a place like Cathedral Road, there's always the winter, like I said, it's always dark, so it's hammering down the one way road. I make a point of not looking outside so it gets light. Just don't sit in the truck. I get there first, 2.5 hour drive. I'm always there first. We get there at 7. I pull up, pitch black, trucks moving with the wind, pissing down. And I think, just don't look out, man, because it's just going to be so depressing. When it's light, things will look better. You know what I mean? So I keep my head down and look at my phone, put the radio on. I don't look at the trees. I think that's what we're doing over there. Because it'd be a negative experience. But when the sun, when it brightens up, it's different. You feel, all right, I can see that. Man. Well, we're through that fucking depression. This is terrible. You know what I mean? So I put a lot of emphasis on mental stuff. That's where I am now. Wasn't always there. But I've learned things about myself that way. I do try to encourage other people. So I try to, give them points of view and advice that they might not have considered yet. Especially if they're younger or whatever. It's like, I can teach you, maybe offer you useful information. It might take you years to learn yourself. You know what I mean? What I'm telling you now, in particular, but this is, I try to tell people things that I learn about myself, and maybe it can be applied to them too. Good habits, to stay strong mentally, stay upbeat, stuff, and it makes all the difference. It makes all the difference during the day and how you feel. Anxiety levels, and clarity, and your logic. You're not feeling clear-headed. You're feeling anxious, apprehensive. You're not going to make the same decisions as if you were feeling confident. So that's just me. It took me a while to do.
No, I think it's good that you kind of pass that on to people that you work with and stuff, because it's all those little things that if you've had years of experience and you've finally found out what it really takes to get through a day safely and not be like kind of negative and down, and because then that just makes everything worse, and just doesn't make the job run as smoothly because you've got this negative cloud hanging over you all day long. And like there's so much to be said for like going in and having a positive attitude and then just breaking jobs down just like section by section, rather than just thinking it as a whole and just looking at a job first thing in the morning going, oh god, we're never going to get this done. And
and it's worse too when you know, if you're somebody like you or I who were kind of owner operators, we are taking responsibility for everything. You know, I mean, it was sort of easier. One of the things that I used to enjoy about the contract climbing when I worked for good people, I didn't always work for good people, but I usually found my way to good people who were honourable, and there was a lot of mutual respect there. I used to take some satisfaction that I could literally see the weight lift off the shoulders when I'd arrive, because it was one less thing for them to believe. Do you know what I mean? Because as the owner of the company, the owner operator, used to do everything. You price everything, you all pay for it, then you want to take all of the main responsibility on the job, climbing, football, whatever. So it was nice that I could, you know, I didn't do it for free, obviously, but, you know, that I used to like that aspect of it, that they would look relieved. You know what I mean? They would all time and stuff. They trusted me. You know, I mean, I could do a better job than them. Not only could I do what they could do, but I could do it better, and that's why they hired me. You know, I mean, it was good to see the relief. At least I ain't got to fucking do that too. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So it was one of the perks of contracting, was making people feel better that I was working for people there. Because, you know, I haven't really got any. I got loads of friends anyway. I've never had loads, but you tend to end up associating with the people in the trade, for better or worse. That's just, I don't know why. Perhaps because it's a job that you have to go through a lot, that you gain, and there's a lot of mutual respect, and so you tend to form quite honest relationships with people, and you sort of circulate around those similar types, do you know what I mean, for whatever reason. But forgot where that was going. There was a punchline to that. I don't know what it was. I don't know.
You're talking about spending time with people that are in the same trade.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, that was it. It was going somewhere else.
You lost your train of thought.
Totally. Wasn't concentrating, you see. just
That's a lesson.
Yeah.
Well,
I'll
I'll let you go and enjoy the rest of your evening, Reg. But I just want to say thank you. Well, thank you for doing this for starters. And
well, we've been trying for long enough.
Yeah, I know we've been trying to line up our schedules together. But no, I just want to say, like, keep on making those videos and being yourself, because that's why I think that's why everyone appreciates it so much, because you are so genuine, and you like to show exactly what it is you're doing. You kind of explain things as best as you can, but you don't ever sugarcoat anything. If you feel something or something's pissing you off or something's hard, you'll say it. And I think everybody can relate that watches your videos, and I have a guy that works with me actually, and he's like your number one fan. Every time you release a video, he says, "Oh, did you see that latest Reg Coates video?" And
Well, I try not to do too many because I never wanted to be so really over familiar with people that they just get bored of you. So I do have to. I do, maybe once a month or something like that if I think it's worthy. It's just when you wonder, is there any point when it is a lot of the same stuff?
yeah,
I find that hard to justify. I mean, some people will just keep on turning out the same stuff every week, if not several times a week, because they make money off it and they don't care that it's just the same stuff. But I can't really do that. I just can't do it. So if it is similar stuff, I'm gonna put gaps in between at least. Do you know what I mean? But, and then not everybody's gonna agree with the way I do things, but they haven't all walked in my shoes either. They're not in my circumstances. They have different values. Do you know what I mean? I basically want to be left alone
yeah.
as a person. I live a pretty simple, uncomplicated existence. I keep the tree business simple.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I'm not looking to be big time, big signs on the truck and look at me type of thing. Um, I just keep the local. I don't even have signs on the truck.
Do you not?
No, I don't want anybody. Like when I'm downtown, I don't see people hovering around the truck saying, "Oh, have you got a car?" That's not the time to approach me about trees. I'm out there with my daughter or just fucking being alone. It's not me 24/7.
Yeah.
So I don't do that. They can find me online, or they can get me through word of mouth, or they can find somebody else. I don't care. Like I'm not looking. I don't want to be high profile, like around town. It just doesn't appeal to me. Some people it does. Some people it becomes them more than anything else. I'm not saying it's all ego based, but it can become that way. Where they want to see their name up in lights and they want people wearing shirts with their name on it. Do you know what I mean? They're just trying to brand everything. I can't relate to that. For me, I'm so. I just would rather be inconspicuous, hiding the money. I save my money. People ask me, have you got any money? I say, no, I'm broke. I don't say, oh yeah, I've got tons. I might have tons, but I'm not going to tell you. Just who I am. Just you know what I mean? Discreet.
That's the northerner in you. We all, we always say we're broke.
Well, you maybe
because we grow
maybe, but it's just the way I am.
Yeah.
But in regards to the business as well, it's just I just keep myself to myself. I get people wanting to do this and that together, and why don't you get involved with this? And I say, nah, no thanks. You know, just not into it. No. And there is a lot of people like me, the silent majority, who just want to keep their head down and not be bothered by anybody. I'm not going to meddle in anybody else's business. I'm not going to tell you how to do your job. Please don't tell me how to do mine. My track record and reputation is in very good tact. So don't have to fix or change anything. Do you know what I mean? There's people around town, I could use an example, who are fucking horrendous. Big companies, they're fucking horrendous. And they have more acts than anybody. Yet they'll sell themselves as experts. Do you know what I mean? And it's fucking laughable. They're not even fit to tie my saw on. Let alone you drive around telling everybody how great they are, experts or leaders, number one, this and that. I mean, they're fucking delusional or shameless, one or the other. It's just fucking funny. You never been to a place where there's so many fucking leaders, self-elected leaders. It's funny. Like, they're not laughing, they're fucking serious. Like, you know what I mean? It's just weird characters, you know, weird cultures that are aliens. They're just aliens. So through the videos as well, I try to put that across, do you know what I mean? Become an accomplished craftsman, you know, master your craft, do you know what I mean? Learn to be resourceful, learn to be adaptive. Do you know what I mean? There's always a way of doing it. We do massive jobs with just two of us. You know, it might not always make the most economic sense, but that'll do us. Like, do you know what I mean? We improvise and adapt. Do you know what I mean? I've got that many tricks up my sleeve and that many ways to best utilize manpower. Do you know what I mean? And make the most of small numbers like that and do things inconspicuously. It's funny, I'm glad some of these big companies are around because they make me look so good. Do you know what I mean? I get so many jobs off the back of them. There's two big companies in particular in town. You probably know what their names are. I get so much work off the back of them because of the horrific, unrealistic pricing. Do you know what I mean? And the shite work that they do. And then people come to me and there's two of us. There's me and a girl, Amber. Do you know what I mean? She's fucking been working great. And she thinks, and she's careful, and considerate, and polite, and quiet. And we just work only hard enough. We just make the right moves. You know what I mean? Before that, there was Aaron, but he fucked off the Powell River. But the people are amazed at how much we can get done. Just our small truck and chipper and us and rigging, clever, crafty rigging, you know. And that's just the way I am. That's who I am and what I've become at this stage. And that's something I try to do, kind of purposely try and promote in the videos and say, you can do this too. Don't let anybody tell you can't. You can fucking do this. You and your groundwork, or you and your two ground. You can work it out, man. And I do. I get messages saying, I learned something. Man, I'm going to try it. And that's cool. I like to hear it. I like to hear it. It might not be rule book stuff, but it's logical. You know what I mean? The stuff I do is logical. It's calculated. You know, some of it's unorthodox, but it's logical. So that's what I look to. You never see me saying, "Hey, I'm the greatest, the best, got my big truck." You know, and you're a bit like that too.
Yeah, well, I think I've come to realise that it's the thing. Do you know what the Dunning-Kruger effect is? It's like,
You know,
so that's what I feel about myself and about the way that I am and the position that I'm in my job and in my knowledge. It's like in the first 3-4 years of my career, I thought I knew everything. Then I started to meet people that I worked with that knew a lot, and then I was like, oh God, I know absolutely nothing. And then I'm like, I think I'm still in like that part of the industry now where I realize like there's I know so many people that are specialists in certain parts of their job, whether it be, I don't know, rigging, climbing, doing removals, splicing, knowing about tree biology and pests and diseases and more that kind of side of things. And I'm not an expert in anything. Like I just like, and it makes me realize, God, I'm just very, very run of the mill, average, and I know.
no, that's not true. You never call yourself that. You're a very good all rounder. You know what I mean? And You can be anything you want to be. If you want to specialize, do that. But running a company like yours or like that, it's not possible. Really. You sacrifice and drop some aspects of it and go and concentrate in a certain direction. So how old are you?
37.
Yeah, you got ages. You got ages.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you feel exactly the same when you 47. You don't look the same.
Well, that's it. I think I've a little like you. I've started to I think a lot more about what I'm doing and how I want my business to go and how I want my climbing and my physical abilities to stay intact. And so I kind of plan for the future. Whereas, like we were talking earlier, when you're young, you're just like go 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 and looking ahead and thinking you're indestructible. And but I'm always wanting to learn about the more about the climbing and the physical side of tree work and the rigging side. And like I'm not I just can't get excited about the knowledge side. And so that it's hard to want to learn more about that because I'm not that interested in
Well,
it.
it does help you, and it can, you can certainly you can influence people with good knowledge, relevant knowledge, the right knowledge. You're fighting pests and diseases are imperative.
Yeah.
That's something everybody should know or should be looking to learn about. I was astonished at how, like, when I came to Victoria, how little several of the ISA certified arborists I knew I was involved with, how little they knew about stuff like that. And the things they were overlooking was dangerous. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But have to intercept and say, hang on a minute, kid, you haven't noticed what's down there at the base of the tree. No, what is it? It's just such a lack of knowledge, and that these people are going around as experts, apparently. And I don't know how that happens. How do you become certified and have such a lack of knowledge in such a critical kind of aspects of the job? Hazard recognition like that is everything. But so there's a lot of people have got away with a lot of shit by chance. You know what I mean? They've dodged a lot of bullets, that they didn't even see that went over the head. So I don't know what's missing. It's one of the reasons why I've always, and I'm sure there's some very good ISA arborists out there, but there's some terrible ones out there too. And it's one of the reasons why I've always shied away from it, is because I don't really want to be associated with it. Do you know what I mean? Because some of them don't know shit.
Yeah.
And they're recommended ridiculous fucking work, overlooking really obvious hazards, because they don't know what they're looking at. And yet they're held in this high regard in and around town because the average Joe Bloggs doesn't know any better. Oh, you're an ISA arborist, you must fucking know everything. You know what I mean? So I don't, and they I see so much bad workmanship. It's a cold fucking grooming, diabolical grooming. You know what I mean? And accidents too. And I think, fuck, I don't want to be stained with them. I'll just market myself on my own reputation and the qualifications that I brought. So I don't know what went wrong there or why it works out like that. people are able to slip through the net
Yeah.
and then be certified or call themselves qualified and know fuck all.
Yeah.
I don't know much about the RSA thing, how it works. And, there's not I ain't really got a lot of motivation to learn it either, to get involved when I see that kind of shoddy stuff going on. Don't be associated with people. Well, that's not to offend anyone who is, is a knowledgeable RSA, certified arborist, because, pursue that side of things and it's taking time to learn and study. But it's there's actually has a lot of shortcomings just to getting that basic certificate. I don't feel inspired to do it, so get involved. I think they want association, but you've never done that before, have you?
No, it is. I see where you're coming from, and I know. Well, the ISA test, you can pass it fairly easily with just a bit of studying of the guide. It doesn't. It's strange that nowadays it doesn't bring into consideration any tree identification, any pest identification. That's a huge part that is missing, and so you just kind of revising from their study guide and you it's
I just find that weird.
Yeah.
I find that weird.
I suppose they've done that to roll out a test that can be given out worldwide without it having to be it's just for ease, isn't it? Really.
Whereas, what are you testing? What are the topics?
There's I don't know, maybe 10 different chapters of biology, and there's a climbing portion. I can't even remember.
Sounds very interesting.
Yeah.
I know it's better than nothing.
It's definitely better than.
But I think there's a misconception there certainly among the clientele around here that it means a lot more than it does.
It definitely here in North America, it definitely seems to hold a lot of weight because
there's nothing else.
Yeah, when you say to somebody, "Oh, I'm an arborist," I'm an arborist. They seem to know they all seem to know the term certified arborist, and it's quite strange to me that the general public know. They're like, "Oh, you're a certified arborist." So it obviously does hold a lot of weight among in North America, and it is so bizarre how the test, because I feel like it used to have tree ID and pest ID, and then I don't know when they removed that, but now.
Well, I think that should be the starting point, really.
Yeah.
To know what you're actually looking at and working.
To me,
to at least be able to, make a judgment on how safe a tree might be, or is there a chance it's compromised?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Definitely. It seems like the only reason they took it out is just for ease of being able to distribute the test around the world, without having to go into localized areas and say, right, this is the tree ID and pests for your area, and this is but
well, don't they have different chapters that do different tests? I mean, isn't it fragmented like that?
Yeah, it seems like if they used to have it, then why remove it? But I have no idea.
I mean, I would hate to be an ISA certified arborist that knew fuck all, went and looked at a tree, priced it to do something, I don't know, pruning, and then it fucking blew down the next week because it had malaria. I mean, where do you stand then?
Yeah.
There's every chance you're going to be liable, I would think. I mean, if you kind of sell yourself as a certified expert, and you miss something that ends, and there's a consequence to a catastrophe occurs. where do you stand? I mean, that's just so fundamentally serious,
Yeah.
and yet it's been left out or played down. The serious diabolical consequences of that. You know what I mean? Not being able to recognise hazards. I mean, that's just weird.
Mm.
That should come before anything else. Is the fucking tree safe? Before you know, I'll take this branch on that branch. That'll look nice. That'll have a bit more sun in. I mean, that'll be a few less leaves on the gutter. What is the fucking tree safe?
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
But it's got root disease. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and obviously there's different fungi do have different strategies and to different extents. This shit you have to know. I mean, I would think everybody should feel compelled to learn that, to cover their own back. Anyone who's pricing jobs, do you know what I mean? They might not be pricing a job to do a risk assessment or a report on it, but surely anybody who's anywhere near responsible would feel that. God, I better fucking learn what I'm looking at here.
Yeah.
But so many don't. I don't understand it.
Yeah. But that's what. Yeah, there's some people that start out in the industry, maybe pass the test, so they feel like they know things, but they're almost like they don't know what they don't know, so they're so oblivious to what somebody a lot more experienced would be looking at. If some people are just so oblivious. Some people know that they're kind of pulling the wool over somebody's eyes, and I think those are the type of people that need to take a second look at themselves. But I think if you're oblivious to the fact that you just don't know what you're supposed to be looking at, then
you just remain oblivious.
Yeah. 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 You're just naive, aren't you? And you just don't know.
But maybe. Yeah. I don't know either.
Yeah. You obviously have very high standards and high morals, just for yourself.
Well, I want to protect myself.
Yeah, definitely.
And if I'm hired as an expert, I better know what I'm talking about in all aspects of it. Or if it's something I don't know, I'm going to find out and let you know. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm going to defer you straight away to somebody who knows a little bit more than me about that specifically. There's not much I can't answer. You know what I mean? There's not many fungi I won't recognise. You know, but that's just a sense of responsibility. It's just how I feel about it. You know what I mean? Just a responsible business owner, practitioner.
Yeah, because it's your name at the end of the day.
Well, it's my name, it's their name too. I don't want to see somebody else get it.
Yeah. You don't want the guilt on your conscience of something happening when you haven't.
I just don't want not just the guilt. I don't want something bad to happen. You know, before anything else, before anybody gets in any tree or any chainsaw is started, a handsaw, or pole pruner, or anything else, just where do we start? Oh yeah, is the tree safe? That's the starting point of everything. But evidently not. For some,
yeah.
For some people, but that's what I urge everybody. Before anything, before you become the greatest climber in the world, learn what it is that you're actually working on. Learn about that. You know, and it can have serious consequences too. And, you know, because there's a lot of. I mean, there's a kid died just a couple of months ago here. I don't know. I didn't know. Well, do you know what I mean? And it's a sensitive subject when somebody gets hurt because nobody wants to say anything. Oh, you shouldn't have done this and you shouldn't have done that. You know, it's an awkward one. And I know that you know, I didn't know the fellow who died. I saw it in the news. Somebody texted me about it. And I straight away sent a text to the owner of the business, who I know and I've done some work for years ago, but I hardly ever see him. I run into him now maybe once a year, and he's a great bloke. He's perhaps, as a boss, so there's probably about a dozen people working for him. I don't think he was there outside. And he's probably one of the most conscientious bosses that I've ever seen. Do you know what I mean? One of the most caring and considerate people. So it made it seem worse that it happened to one of his. You know, because I'd worked with him not that many times. And if anything, I thought he was kind of being over fussy with his groundsman. Like, fucking stop mollycoddling. Do you know what I mean? Well, he seemed to be, this guy was fucking just come out of rehab, and he lent this fellow a load of money, and he just seemed to have be dealing with all these characters at the time. I don't know if any of them still work there now. When I was working, he wouldn't let me work. We were forever underneath dragging stuff. I just let me get some down. I don't know, don't it all piling up. Let me get it down, I'll come down and help you. I don't care if it's piled up. I'll climb it and pull it out. Just let me get on with it. Oh, no, he was just such a decent fella. And then I've heard that. And I felt, I can't feel, you know, I feel like obviously there's, you know, I feel sad when anybody dies that I know. I didn't know this far. But there was, you know, as kind of a sadness that he does the same job as me, and fucking is dead. You know, and the people that witnessed it would have been horrible for them. You know, but you don't. The harsh reality is that, you know, rigging accidents don't just happen. You know, rigging accidents are created when you're loading different parts of the tree in ways that they're not used to. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know the exact circumstances. Somebody did send me a picture, a diagram, and it took me all 5 minutes to work out. You can always say, well, you could have done that differently. You know, but, and Gary Oakes in particular, you know, the first one I ever climbed, I thought, this is not what I'm used to. It wasn't even a big tree. I thought, does not feel like a safe structure. And I've seen so many of them collapse in the summer under their own weight, and in the winter too. You know, without rigging and loading the tree in parts with logs and branches. You know, I don't know what the structural integrity of that tree was if it collapsed.
Yeah.
You know, but you see something like that happen, you know, without being judgmental. And I would hope it inspires people, you know, to learn about what it is they're working. You know, that should be a real wake-up call. Perhaps people don't look at it that way. But for me, even for me, it's a reminder. Gary Oakes is shite. You know, the shite. And rigging is serious, because you're altering the dynamics and the loading of things. And there's ways that there's a lot of misconceptions about rigging, how to calculate loads and forces to do with line angles and deflections. Do you know what I mean? And false crotches, natural crotches, and people can be multiplying and not realize that that's what they're doing. they might think they're sharing the load and they're actually multiplying. It's a weird thing, and I'd advise anybody to look into that too, because a lot of stuff gets taken for granted.
Yeah.
You know, but this kid, where did he come from?
He was Australian.
He was Australian. How old was
I think he was like 20, 23, 24.
he? Right.
Yeah.
He come from Australia, and where was he working? Where did he live? Over? You know.
Well, he lived in and around Victoria. I'm not sure where. He'd only been there for like
No,
a.
but where did he live in Australia?
Oh right, I'm not sure.
Uh, because if he's used to working on ukes, you can hang a double-decker bus on.
Yeah.
So did they try and translate that into Gario? I would hope not.
Yeah,
But,
because I think he'd only been there for like a month, hadn't he?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's possible.
Yeah,
Possible.
he'd not been there long.
Yeah.
I know that
Go on.
he'd done a few days for Chamberlain, I think.
Right.
Yeah, and I know a guy that met him in Vancouver,
Mm.
like not long beforehand. So I know he'd not been there for long.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's awkward. It's you can't turn the clock back. And I had a friend of mine died, a mechanic, this year. A fellow that I had the greatest respect for. He was a very conservative fellow, retired firefighter. He's been servicing my trucks for years, and he died. He had a terrible death, a collapsed lung, broken back, cancer all at the same time. Died very suddenly out of the blue. Terrible for him. I can't believe I've never seen him. You know, I'm sure a lot of people feel the same way about this fella,
Yeah.
this Australian lad who died. And it's, you can't. It doesn't seem appropriate to start, you know, criticising or trying to pick holes. But
You kind of have to though, don't you? Like
you have to
not
put it in a positive way.
yeah, not with him
You,
as a person, but you have to try and like almost like analyze and investigate what had happened, and it's not pointing the finger at anybody
no, it
as like
isn't. No, it isn't.
not their
It's about
character.
avoiding the same thing again.
Yeah, learning.
You
Yeah,
know what were the factors that created the collapse? Do you know what I mean? What could have done? And it's too easy to say, well, just cut smaller.
yeah,
Because it might be something you do hundreds of times, the same thing. And this time, everything was just stacked in favour. Do you know what I mean? Or you went a little bit bigger, or you overlooked something, or you took a slight chance, or your line angle was slightly not right. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, of course, everything is avoidable. But those accidents, rigging accidents, they're created. You create the collapse with your loading of things in a certain way. You know, so it does pay to kind of, I suppose, sort of self-reflect and say, well, what do we do?
yeah,
We do everything. I'm not saying put everything into dartboard sizes, but what do we do? Anything that we may be overlooking, our methodology, anything critical,
yeah,
anything we can do to protect ourselves, learn about what it is you're working on, learn to recognise a hazardous tree or hazardous structure that, as is a rigging situation, are we creating a hazard with the way we have our rigging set up? Are we really offsetting the risks, or are we increasing?
mm,
That's kind of critical thinking is probably the most positive thing you can do in the aftermath of a shit situation like that.
Yeah.
And I feel fucking. It's got to be the worst thing ever for these parents. I mean, I think you've done some travelling as well, and you know I did. So you leave your, as a young fellow, you leave your mum and dad, and fucking, the worst thing for them is to get that phone call. This actually did happen. Obviously, they got the worst fucking phone call of their lives. Say their son was dead, was being killed. Can't imagine. It's a terrible thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely terrible. But
But it seems worse when it's on your doorstep and it's related to your trade.
yeah.
You know what I mean? But there shouldn't be a huge knee-jerk reaction. Though when you put it in context, how many people went home safely that day?
Mm.
Cut the same size, if not bigger tree down, or that week, or that year. Countless numbers in BC went home unscathed through the year. Do you know what I mean? So you do have to put it in context and not overreact either. It's just a sore point.
Mm.
It's a sore point, and there's no consolation for anybody. You just got to hope that the people that you really got feeling bad for above everyone else is family.
Yeah.
Because their lives have changed forever. I mean, that's just the worst thing ever for them. You can lose a parent, you can even see your own life ending. Nothing would hurt more than losing a child.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I just can't even imagine. If I lost my kid, it would be very hard. I would probably stay alive only, or to envisage, to think about it. I don't know how you feel in the future, but in the aftermath, I would want to stay alive only so my mum and dad didn't see me die before that. But after that, I wouldn't want to be around.
Mm.
It would be very hard for me to imagine life without our kid. I wouldn't want to go on. There'd be nothing that I could see, no goal, no motivation, no incentive. I couldn't imagine anything that I'd want to keep the reason to stay alive. I just wouldn't want to be it. So it's, I just feel so bad for them. And
Mm.
I think about it. I haven't been feeling bad, so I know as we're talking about it, the more I comprehend it. It's just fucking awful. The
Yeah.
worst thing in the world.
Must be yeah. You can't even begin to imagine what it must be like for them after losing him.
No,
But that's that.
you just sort of hope that they are a close family. There is comfort there.
Yeah.
Maybe they have other kids. That's not as a replacement or anything else. But if you have other dependents or whatever does, I suppose you do feel like you need to keep going. And maybe after time, sometime, a lot of time, the pain might get a bit less. I don't think it would ever go away.
Mm.
It might be more bearable. That's all you can hope for the next few years. Could be horrific, I think.
Yeah.
Well, on that happy
On that,
note,
yeah. on that one.
sorry. Oh, wait
Yeah.
to finish.
Yeah. On that one. All right. Well. All right. To brighten it up, do you still go to Starbucks, or have you still never been back since?
I've been back a couple of times. I mean, it's just as annoying for different reasons. Now, I don't like them. But at least they don't say as much with the masks on.
I can't remember what your rant was about Starbucks. Was it because someone they'd prepared an order from somebody on a mobile order or something? I can't remember what you were angry
That's
about.
annoying too. That's very annoying. Well, what not? It was the how's your day going so far thing.
Oh, right.
7 a.m. Yeah, not even looking at me when they say it.
Yeah, just in.
You know, it's an insult.
Just a robot.
It's an insult but it's an insult from the top down. I mean, who are these people that make this the policy? Who are they? What are they thinking?
I think that's just a Canadian thing, isn't it?
I don't know, because I mean, yeah, maybe it is. I mean, I find it mind-boggling. You know, it just, yeah, I don't understand. Say anything.
Oh.
Or how's your day going so far? They don't care to know the answer. Don't bother me with that shit. You know, but it's not even the robots that say it. It's the people who made that company policy.
Yeah.
Insulting, you know. I mean, it's a small insult. It's not a huge inconvenience to me. But it's like alien. I want to see some sincerity.
And that is where this podcast ends. It finished a little bit abruptly because my internet died and we lost connection, and we'd been going for so long anyway. It was getting late, so we decided to call it quits there. But man, I hope Reg will agree to do another one in the future. And I've got so many questions that I didn't ask him that I wanted to ask him, and everybody's dying probably to give their questions that they wanted answered and that we never got around to. But you know, I can't keep him all day long. So if you enjoyed it, go and rate this podcast on whatever platform you're listening to, and give us some support. And go and tell Reg how much you enjoyed listening to it as well, somehow through his YouTube channel. Comment on somewhere and just tell him how much you enjoyed listening to it. So cheers, Reg. Appreciate it.